Hi, guys. Before we get into today's chat, I'd like you to please press the like button and also subscribe if you aren't already. Also, leave a comment on anything, whether you like it or not. In today's chat, we have the immense opportunity of speaking with an expert on the subject of Vietnamese martial arts. He's been immersed not only in the martial arts, but also in the culture for the last 15 years. Located in Hanoi, Vietnam, he preserves and spreads his beloved art of Dharma Mountain Kung Fu through spreading knowledge of Vietnamese martial arts on a whole. Having penned the martial arts of Vietnam makes him a bona fide expert on the matter. And it is my pleasure to welcome Vasu Augustus John Roe. How are you doing today, sir?
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Very good, very good. I hope I didn't butcher that that term. I hope I didn't say it too bad. It was okay. It was okay. Good stuff. Good stuff. Let's go straight into the interview, if you don't mind, Gus. How did you start the martial arts?
Going back a long time. I first started martial arts when I was young. When I was really young. I've got 3 brothers, so we were always kind of scrapping and fighting. And then there was always someone going off to study some local martial arts. So I think I did some judo and subakdo, Korean martial art, when I was very young. Then I kind of fell out of practice with the martial arts while I was when I was a teenager, and then when I was in my late teens, someone handed me a flyer for a local ITF Taekwondo gym when I was just walking along on the beach, and I ended up going to the Taekwondo gym and practiced for several years, and I got up to just before taking my first Dan black belt, and then that's when I went traveling and ended up in Vietnam. During that time period, I also studied Wing Chun, White Crane Kung Fu, and bits and pieces of some other martial arts, a bit of boxing, a bit of Muay Thai. Then I went traveling for a year, and a friend of mine happened to be living in Vietnam already. I was in Korea at the time, and he called me up and said, "Hey, you should come over and visit me. Come over and visit for Christmas." I was kind of not really sure actually what was in Vietnam. I wasn't sure if it was going to be good, or my kind of entire experience from the country had been watching movies like Apocalypse Now and stuff like that. So I actually had no idea what to expect. But he told me, I've got a martial arts teacher over here, and he's really good. So you should come and stay with me for Christmas. We'll do some kung fu, and that sold it for me. So I came over. I met his teacher, who ended up becoming my teacher. He's American Vietnamese. Yeah, his father was one of the people who left Vietnam in the South following the wartime and moved to America. He was raised in America and then returned to Vietnam. And it really helped me having a teacher who can speak both languages fluently and can kind of explain a lot of the concepts really well.
Yes. So that there was no language barrier for you to break, right? So you could just grasp all the concepts easier. No, that's awesome. That is awesome. So you lucked out right there.
Yeah, definitely.
If you don't mind me asking, right? Because you said you had previous experience with Wing Chun and White Crane Kung Fu. Now, seeing as how you moved to Vietnam and started studying the martial arts there as well, you still said the term Kung Fu. So my question is, do the Vietnamese martial arts have a Chinese connection?
Yeah, definitely. Vietnam for thousands of years was kind of it was actually dominated by the Chinese Empire, and through that period, a lot of culture has kind of seeped through and influenced Vietnamese culture. The term Vietnam actually comes from Nam Viet or Nan Nuet in Chinese, meaning like the southern dwellers. So it was actually a kind of seen as a distinct southern, like rogue southern state of China for a long time. and obviously various Chinese influences have come through over the years, and more people have emigrated south, and they've kind of mixed in with local indigenous Southeast Asian people and indigenous Southeast Asian culture, and has blended together to form this kind of unique melting pot area that it is now. So a lot of the martial arts do have influences from China, but also have kind of this distinct flavor which comes through from the geographical reasons, and also local cultures and other influence of other cultures in the surrounding region.
Much like how the Chinese martial arts themselves developed because of the terrain between northern and southern regions of China and so on. That's great. That's awesome. So, stemming from the Chinese martial arts, I'm quite sure that the Vietnamese martial arts have a very, very long history as well, correct?
Some of like the earliest documentation of like indigenous Vietnamese martial arts are at least back 1,000 years or more, with types of grappling, wrestling, throwing arts that have a long kind of folk culture. But there are also kind of battlefield arts featuring weapons, spears, swords, sabers, a lot like some of the Chinese battlefield art as well.
That's awesome. So, if you don't mind me asking, in this long history, where does your style of Dharma Mountain Kung Fu come in?
Yeah, so my style actually comes from the very southwest region of Vietnam, which is in the Seven Mountains region on the border of what is now Cambodia. But historically, the entire southern region of Vietnam, where Ho Chi Minh City is now, was part of the Khmer Kingdom. So my style in particular kind of shows Chinese influences to some extent. We have like animal forms like tiger, crane, things like this, but we also have kind of some more Southeast Asian style influences, very heavily informed by elbows and knees. We use short sticks, we use karambits. So it's kind of a blend of kind of different Chinese things that have seeped in over the years as the region became more and more populated by people spreading out from the north, as well as kind of local Vietnamese customs with aspects of wrestling and grappling, and also the kind of more Khmer Southeast Asian styles with heavy elbows and knees. We also have a few kind of unique factors. For example, we rarely actually grip with the hands because in the south everyone's so sweaty, so we kind of manipulate grips to do without actually physically grabbing onto someone.
Oh, that's awesome. That's of course, because of the name Kung Fu, I'm thinking on the lines of more Chinese visually of how your style would look. I'm thinking more Chinese, but now you've brought in and you actually showed me the karambit. Now I'm having more of a vivid, picture of it now, of like a Muay Thai, Khmer boxing with Kali and probably even Krabi Kerbang as well. All of it like put together, right? Was probably how your style would look.
Yeah, exactly. There's definitely like kind of these trace elements from all kind of different cultures who have historically been in the region. So you've got kind of the Khmer Kingdom, you've got Chinese influences, you've got things that look closer to like Malay, Indonesian martial arts as well. And I guess historically there was never kind of a set thing in a set place. People traveled and cultures intermingled, and it's only kind of in recent years that we've started to actually classify these different martial arts that belong to different areas and different people. But originally it was kind of, especially in such a violent and turbulent place where people needed to defend themselves a lot, it was kind of, you would take what you could. You'd learn your skills from whoever had, whoever was surviving or doing well in battles, and took what you needed to survive.
Along that line, is it a practical style of fighting?
Yeah, I would say so. There is a heavy focus on kind of applications and actually adapting what you learn into real life fighting methodology. In my style in particular, I mean, we don't really have like ranking systems or like contact sparring or anything. It's kind of very focused on actually, we learn forms and things like this, but it's kind of very adaptable and flexible. We're encouraged to make sense of what we're learning and actually relate it into the real world.
That's awesome. So you have a lot of reality-based training for this.
Sure.
Okay.
However, there is also this kind of a more spiritual side of things. So my style is a Buddhist style of martial arts. In the region, there are also very strong like Taoist elements, and there are also kind of animist backgrounds. So there are definitely like a lot of these spiritual elements as well, which do not always translate well into direct fighting, but are kind of the core underpinning of what you're doing.
Awesome. So, sorry to bring back the comparison to, I won't say comparison, but since I'm a Chinese martial artist myself, hearing that there's that connection, it brings me back to the Chinese martial arts. So now that Buddhist connection to the martial arts has given me more like an inkling of a Shaolin type of connection. Is it kind of like that?
Particularly like in the southern region, it's culturally there's very strong religious and kind of spiritual vibes. There's also a lot of kind of cultism, so to speak, where you have these enigmatic figures who are revered, and you also have kind of people put a lot of faith in things like the mountains, the lands, the animals of the region. So there's definitely this very strong spiritual connection, which I think is across all of Vietnam to an extent, but is particularly emphasized in like the area my martial arts comes from, which is very wild and maybe undeveloped until recent years comparatively. It was always quite an isolated kind of renegade place where it was dangerous to live, and people, lots of hermits would live on the mountain studying religion and studying martial arts and fighting off tigers and bandits and stuff like that. So it's quite a Wild West kind of place.
I hear that. Let's go ahead and move on. Boss Sue, how has your martial arts training benefited your professional career?
My martial arts training has really been the inciting factor for everything I do now, actually. So I do a variety of things. So I teach martial arts. I write both fiction and non-fiction, and research martial arts. And I am also a language examiner, which is kind of my day job, so to speak, although I don't actually do that very much. But martial arts has really helped shape out what I was going to do with my life by kind of giving me, well, first I knew that I wanted to come and visit Asia and live there and study there, but it's also given me a focus for my writing. So I write primarily non-fiction about martial arts. I write blogs, books, and then I also write fiction as well, some of which is martial arts focused, and other stuff which is kind of not necessarily martial arts specific, but kind of definitely has these elements in it. And it's also been the a kind of way to access the culture and the language, which has helped me develop my other parts of my career as well.
It's great that you could use your martial arts training and actually make that your career. And you know how many people would envy you just for that, right? Being able to do that. So really, your work never really is truly work. It's something that you love, right? That's the dream most people have.
And yeah, having martial arts as kind of the lens through which I view or get involved with all of my other work makes it, yeah, rewarding and interesting, and provides me a nice place to live.
That's true. That's an A+ right there. I'm sure you have beautiful views every single day, probably every single second of the day as well. So let's move on to another question. Getting into that Chinese connection, right? So I definitely do feel like you are an authority to answer this question, right? What do you truly believe is the hardest part of developing Kung Fu?
In my experience, the hardest thing to develop is, well, it's a tricky question to answer because there's so many aspects that are all work in parallel and conjunction with one another. But I think probably the most difficult thing that I find personally is the just like the ongoing commitment that you have to keep progressing. I mean, you have to get up every day. I mean, often I wake up and or maybe do some exercise or start my training, and I feel like I'm, having an off day, or I feel like I'm not doing as well as I should, or not performing as well as I should. But I know that I have to just fall back on my experience, power through, and keep going day in, day out. I think there's a saying: you lose 1 day of training, or you skip 1 day of training and you lose 2 days of skills, something like that. So it's just keeping going every day, powering through. That's probably the biggest challenge I find.
True is true. And speaking of that saying you just said, I've heard different versions of it. This is if you skip 1 day of training, you lose 1 week's progress. Right?
Yeah, so that's probably closer to it.
Or something like that. But all of that does resonate with me, and I completely agree with you, right, on that being the hardest part of developing Kung Fu. It's the actual consistency, the day in, day out. With you going, you don't feel like doing it, but you do it anyway, right? You do it because you love it, right? You do it because, hey, that's how you progress. I agree with you. So here's something to touch on as a teacher, Gus. If you could teach the new generation of martial artists only one thing, whether it be philosophy, or it could be technique, or it could even be a combination of both, what would it be?
Well, kind of falling back on the last question, I think it would be this kind of mindset of perseverance and dedication that we find martial artists have. I mean, personally, from my own experiences with many martial artists, I find that the type of people who progress or do very well in martial arts have a certain mentality, which is quite rare among the general population. It's kind of dedication and ability to push themselves beyond what others often do. And for me, I think that is probably one of the most important things martial arts has taught me, and I think that's what I would like to see developed in the younger generation as well. Personally, I throughout my teenage years, when I stopped doing martial arts, I was fat, I was lazy, I was unmotivated. But over time, when I came back into martial arts, it's kind of developed this strength of will and determination that has allowed me to just seeped into every aspect of my life and allowed me to make progress in all these different areas and kind of actually become the person I am today. And I think that kind of sense of will, perseverance and dedication is, for me, one of the most beneficial aspects of martial arts, and I think that would do very well for a lot of the younger people today. I think in our culture of kind of instant gratification, where you're, one click of a button away from anything, that's often this kind of patience and dedication is an aspect that's missing from many people's lives.
That's very true. That is very true, and not just for the martial arts. It's true what you're saying. It's for every single aspect of everybody's life, especially for this culture, as you say, that's full of instant gratification. And to have the discipline, to have the perseverance to go through any type of discipline. Yeah.
That's something that builds up as you practice as well. So it's,
yes.
Like I said with my previous question, each day you get up and you practice or you train, even when you don't feel like it, you're building that kind of fire within you. You're developing that, and the greater it builds, the faster it builds as well. So you become just a better person, in my experience, in my opinion, rather.
And I don't think that opinion is wrong in any way. Right? And it's true what you said earlier, that the martial arts mindset, that same mindset that you're talking about of persevering, getting up when you don't want to, just going through that grind, that truly is a mindset, a rarity amongst people nowadays. Right? Too many people too often quit. As soon as one sign of adversity rears its head, they quit. No, they don't want anymore. It's too hard. Or
even before even starting, like I find a lot of people I suggest coming to learn martial arts, and they say, "Oh, I'm not in good enough shape to learn martial arts," or "I don't want to because I think it will be too hard." And that's kind of a defeatist attitude before you've even attempted something.
It's true, but isn't that the reason why you start martial arts?
Yeah, exactly. It's like saying I can't go to school, I don't know enough.
That's fallacy. That's true. It is a logical fallacy. So, Gus, one more question I got for you. How can you be contacted?
So, I can be contacted through all of the typical social media channels. I've got Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I'm sporadically active on all of them, so sometimes I post a lot, then I might go through a month or two where I don't post very much. But if you want to reach out to me, you can contact me through any of these platforms. I also have my website, augustusjohnroe.com. Like the month, August, US, John, and Roe, ROE.com. On there, you can contact me or engage with me in conversation. I post, I sporadically post articles relating to martial arts, but I plan to do a lot more of that this year. So I've got lots of articles coming up in the work. So if you want to check out my website, you can read some of the articles there, add some comments, or contact me that way. But I'm always happy to engage, to chat with anyone relating to martial arts or Vietnam or anything really. And just, I like to engage with people, so feel free to reach out and send me a message anyway.
All right. That's awesome. Information for Augustus John Roe will be in the description down below. Also in the description down below will be a link for FeiYue shoes. If you need a pair of FeiYue shoes, click the link down below, get the best prices, get the best deals, all at FeiYue shoes. Augustus John Roe, thank you very much for being with me on this chat today, sir. You have educated me on Vietnamese martial arts, and I thank you profusely for that.
All right. Thanks a lot, Mark.